You're listening to Ready That Go podcast, where we talk about the mysteries of parenting. My name is Lenart.
And my name is Demian. Among other things, we explore books on parenting and discuss the chapters on this podcast.
Join us on our journey as we attempt to incorporate our new knowledge into everyday fatherhood.
So, hello world. Two novice podcasters. I think this is the first official recording we're ever doing. And we're here to talk about fatherhood and our journey. We want to do what we can, the best way we can for our children and to create a real meaningful connection. Leonard and I met, you're Leonard, I'm Demian, and we met in Budapest, Hungary, in a park while we were playing with our kids. I have a son called Jackson, and a bit about myself. I'm really into software and tech and stuff like that. But I found I've got this like calling that I really want to make a difference in being a dad. I want to be a present, conscious father. And that's something Leonard and I both realize we both have in common. We really want to do the best we can as parents. I'm sure everybody does. But we really want to dive deep. And I'm originally from South Africa. And we were working on a project in Budapest, and that's what took us to Hungary. Leonard, tell me briefly about you.
I'm originally from Slovenia. I lived in Budapest for 4 months with my family. It was as a transition period of our moving to Norway. I'm a graphic digital designer, very passionate about my work, and I'm also very passionate about being the best possible version of a dad I can possibly be. I have a daughter called Noelle. She's 3-year-old. She's a wonderful kid, full of energy, and she's teaching me so many things every day. So as you said, we met in Budapest, and immediately we both realized that we are quite similar in some aspects, right?
Definitely.
And even now, what's it been? It's been more than a year since I moved to Norway from Budapest. We still talk on almost daily basis.
Yeah.
And our debates and chats continue, and our wish or our goals of being a good parent is still here, stronger than ever.
Yeah.
And in our quest or searching for good books and good material to learn from, we stumbled upon a book called The Whole Brain Child. It was written by a child psychiatrist called Daniel Siegel. And while reading that book and even finishing it, we realized that this is really good material because it's actually scientific language translated into our normal language, right?
Easily understandable, accessible to everyone. It's not some science paper trying to break it all down, huh?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I myself then started reading his last book, which is called The Power of Showing Up. And I think we both talked a lot about how to become a good parent and if there is something we could do to raise awareness, right? Because dads are always, I think, kind of left behind, but not so much anymore. But I think there is not enough talk about roles of fathers, and this is something that intrigued us.
Yeah.
So the idea was born to read all the books written by Dr. Siegel. There are 6 of them, and to record our process, to read 1 chapter per week, discuss the chapter, reflect in our own lives, and set some simple goals for the coming week. And then just repeat this circle until there are no chapters left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And while we're on this journey, I expect, and I'm sure we will read and talk about other anecdotes from other research that we've done.
Absolutely.
We want to try and make it accessible, approachable, and fun, as well as informative, and also kind of learn by example and lead by example, I suppose.
Yeah, and also to bind ourselves to actually doing it, right?
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a commitment for us.
It's a commitment.
We're sharing our experiences on a weekly basis, so it's constant in our minds. I think it's practice what you preach. It's that's a big part of it for me as well. Is like I can be well read, and I can give the best advice, but I can only be authentic if I actually practice what I preach myself, and really embody it and make it my own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And disclaimer: we are both amateur dads. We have no knowledge, so this will be just our thoughts. There will be no no specific knowledge. So there's just two dads learning about parenthood and just sharing our experience of our everyday life, everyday struggles, and how to be the best possible version of ourselves, right?
Exactly.
And we chose these books because they are science-based. So Dr. Siegel, he's a doctor of medicine, and he is really at the cutting edge of what is known currently of happenings in the brain. So he's a researcher who combines the neurological, the biological, and the psychological aspects of us, right? Humans.
Right.
So that's what I love about his books, is because they are explained or in such a way you can understand, but still science-based, facts-based.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of what shies, I suppose specifically dads, but a lot of the general public away from a lot of parenting techniques is it's all kind of hearsay or kind of what old wives' tales, or traditionally it's the mother figure that rears the child with support from the parent, I suppose, is kind of the traditional way. Well, the father goes to work and spends all day at work and comes home and spends a couple of minutes, an hour or two with their children before bedtime, and I mean, we both feel that the scientific approach is very important because we can reach a wider audience, and we can put ourselves behind it because it's proven, it's factual, it's not hearsay. Yeah.
It does our male brain good.
What's that?
It does our male brain good.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly.
Fact-based books. So maybe just a couple of sentences about Daniel J Siegel. He's a clinical professor of psychiatry at the UCLA School of Medicine, and he's a founding and co-director of the Mindful Awareness Research Center at the UCLA. So like I said, I think he's at the very cutting edge of research. He has published extensively for the professional audience, and he's the author of numerous articles, chapters, and internationally acclaimed texts. So his background is quite amazing, and what he is doing is also quite amazing, because you don't even realize how many things are already known, but also so unknown to general public, right? And he has written 6 parenting books, and the plan is to read all 6 of them on this not read them on this podcast, but discuss them. And the first one he written is called Parenting Inside Out, and that one is also the one we'll start with. So this book was born out of a series of parents' workshops as I understood, and it combined Dr. Siegel's cutting-edge research on how communication impacts brain development, and the other author is early childhood expert Mary Hartzell, MED, and she has 30 years of experience as a child development specialist and parent educator. So Parenting from Inside Out guides parents through creating the necessary foundations for loving and caring relationships with our children. And today we'll discuss the introduction of the book, because I didn't do my homework and only read the introduction. I didn't read the first chapter, and it was agreed.
The introduction covers a lot about all the chapters anyway, and even some really good hot topics. So it's a good place to start.
Yeah. So do you want to start about what stays with you, or what parts of the introductions you think especially interesting, or what are you excited about in this book?
Yeah. What I also I haven't actually finished reading The Whole Brain Child, but I liked stepping back a little bit and starting with his other book, Parenting from the Inside Out, because it starts with you. And even knowing the science behind and understanding a child's brain, to be able to implement the teachings and suggestions, and as Daniel Siegel says, this is a how-we book, not a how-to book. I feel that this is a perfect place to start, and with everything, it's personal development, to be able to really engage with your child as well. So parenting is much about you as it is about your relationship with your child. And he speaks in the book, we speak strongly about how we understand our own past. And there's a lot of content written about that in a lot of different fields, psychology, psychiatry, therapy. But and a lot of it is scientifically proven stuff. What I really like about this is it's not only what's in the past, but how you kind of learn to understand yourself. And once you can understand yourself, either from your past or just why you maybe do things, you're able to better engage with your child. And that's kind of what the introduction talks about. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Leonard.
Just a couple of points maybe. I was surprised, terrified and excited at the same time, because it says that the best predictor of how secure a child's attachment is going to be is how good of a sense you make of your own childhood, right? Mm-hmm. So, and by making sense of your childhood experiences, whether they are good or bad, you actually give your children a possibility not to repeat them.
Yeah.
Because as science has shown, if you don't resolve or if you don't make sense of your past, it's going to repeat itself in the next generation and repeat
more
itself.
Likely to repeat itself.
Yeah, through generations, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, that's scary, because I know there is a lot of things I still have to discover about myself and to make sense of my childhood. And it's also exciting and rewarding, the thought of, okay, if I do this work now, my child won't have to, right? And she'll be able to live more creatively, more freely of the burdens of generational trauma, if you will. So that's what stood out to me. And also the other point that he kind of challenges us a bit, and I think that is going to be also my goal for the next week, is to be mindful and present in your reaction to your children, right? Because if you just react, it's usually you reacting from your past experiences. And being mindful and present and to have choice in how you will react is also a way to create a safer, more secure relationship with your child.
Yeah.
I think this is what stood with me the most from introduction. So the fact that you have to do work on yourself, your childhood experiences, make sense of them, not just remember them, make sense of what happened, and then to be present and mindful in today, to prevent reacting from those experiences.
Yeah.
And I think this is pretty much, I hope, what this book will give me tools to work with.
Yeah. 100%. And there's one more aspect which we haven't really discussed yet, and that this is not the only thing that defines who your child will be or who you will be one day. It's part of it. There are other factors like genetics, like your environment, your health. This is very much about providing that secure relationship with the primary caregiver or the parent of the child. And that's what we're focusing on here. We're not dismissing any other external factors which can play a huge role, but what we can do is we can create the foundation that we do have some sort of control over. Our children will always be themselves and unique individuals, which is beautiful, and we need to harness that. But what we can give them is a strong, passionate, caring foundation. And that's what they also mentioned in the introduction.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And another thing he mentions a couple of times, I think, is that children are teachers, right? That we like to see ourselves as teachers to our children, but they are huge teachers to us as well.
Yeah.
And the sentence that stood out to me very much is that parenting you can really experience it as a burden or as something heavy and unpleasant, or you can switch your focus out of being a burden to being a learning moments, right? That all these heavy moments you have being a parent, if you just change the focus, what can I learn from what's happening now?
Yeah.
I think it lifts that burden a bit, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's really hard to achieve in real life.
Yeah.
But if you're possible to, I think it can be really liberating to just take it all as a learning moment and realizing that it's not hard. It's just a school.
Exactly. So a lot about parenting from the inside out is understanding why we as parents react. And then, for example, the whole brain child is understanding why the child reacts in a certain way and how you can use those situations as gifts, as they call it in the books, to make the best out of a situation that normally could be quite off-putting. We were talking around the bush here. An example is if your child starts screaming and shouting and you can't quite engage and it doesn't make sense what he or she is saying. And maybe it's because she's like overly tired or whatever. And how one can respond. There are many ways you can respond to that. And it's trying to really be in the now, and before one reacts, think about what we can do to respond to the child in the most positive way.
Yeah. And especially to see, right, not just the surface, but deeper in, right? That's what he calls mindsight. So not to respond to the surface emotion, but to be aware what's beneath the behavior your child has. Yeah.
Look, it sounds like a lot of work, and I think if anyone listens to what we're talking about initially, and it is a lot of work, but I think the outcome is it creates a much easier and more giving and fulfilling relationship with one's child. You have to dig deep for this stuff, and if you really, really want and you believe you can have this incredible relationship, which every parent can with their child, no matter your past, you can really overcome this stuff.
So we invite all dads and all moms and everyone who's interested in joining us on this journey of learning and development to just tag along. We'll try to be consistent in our publishing. Maybe even open a Discord group somewhere for discussion.
Yeah.
But for now, the plan is to just keep publishing these short podcasts.
And hopefully get better at what we're doing.
What we're doing, how we can improve, right? So
I have to show I can't show my setup because I'm recording on my phone, and then I got my webcam here, and typical dad, I've got my son's little fire engine, which is my tripod for my phone, set up here. So it's quite a unique situation. I spent too long being like a tech geek last night trying to set up all my audio and my video perfectly on my computer, and then I realized actually it's so much easier just to record from my phone. So this morning I was running around with sticky tape getting my tripod to work because I couldn't find one. But baby steps, let's see how that comes along.
Baby steps. Okay, so my goal, or maybe our goal, I don't know if you agree, is to try to be mindful of my reactions to my daughter. Just try to be aware of how I'm reacting and whether is it a conscious reaction or automatic reaction. So this is what my goal for this week will be.
Yeah.
Just trying to be aware of my reactions to her.
Mine is similar to yours. I would like to try, and it's that whole mindfulness again. I want to think before I react, because I am very reactional, and that's with my wife and my son. I got bad habits of rolling my eyes and it's just that negativity that comes through, which I don't mean. And what I want to do is think before I act. So take a moment to think before I act, because I often think about my reaction afterwards, but now I want to really think before I act. That's what I want to try and work on this week.
Good plan.
Good.
I'm joining you in this. Okay. So we start with chapter 1 next week.
Yeah.
And see how that goes.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you. If ever Daniel Siegel listens to anything we say, thank you very, very much for your work and giving us this resource.
Yes, and big thank you also to you, Demian, and to Mary Hartzell, the other author
I was going to say I haven't
the
mentioned
book.
Mary Hartzell. Yeah, thank you, Lenart.
Thank you. Talk to you next week.
Cheers.